welcome to the Mindset Michelle TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us for yet another incredible episode with the wonderful, amazing Julia Taus. Hello, Julia.
Hello, Michelle.
It's so wonderful to have you come on the show today. And for those of you that haven't met the incredible, lovely Julia, she's from JT's Ideation Centre. She's the founder and owner of it. And she's this incredible, wonderful woman that's passionate about helping people make meaningful connections. And she does this through helping them with their personal branding, origin stories, and through using the power of words and that creativity. But Julia, I'm sure people are wondering, what is an ideation centre and what is this creativity and meaningful connections? But tell us some more about who you are and how you came to be doing what you're doing today.
Sure. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to do so. I think that it's foundational. So for me, I'm a byproduct of two people that were in love with each other and are still in love with each other. I grew up with a tribe of siblings and cousins and aunts. So from a young age, I knew what it meant as far as, to be loved unconditionally. I was also the youngin' and got picked on a lot, and for good reason. I gave them material, which means I have a little bit of this offbeat in me. When I read Tim White wrote a biography of Bob Marley, and in it he describes reggae and how reggae was found off the offbeat, the third beat. And I realized that I'm kind of like that offbeat. And when you find the right people to harmonize with, you can make some pretty special magic. So a little bit about me, Michelle.
That's great, Julia. And now you're doing ideation, and we'll get to what that means later. Did you always have this creative streak? At school, were you more into sports or science, and it kind of came later, or were you always in that wonderful big extended family that you described, where you were that little bit quirky or different to other people? Did you always have that creative side as part of that quirkiness, or were you a bit more scientific when you were younger? What I'm asking is this something that's you've always been aware of, or did you come to it a bit later?
Yeah, I mean, there's thread lines of who you are as a child that show up in your everyday life. So there's definitely, I've always been adventurous. I love sports. I love to be out in nature. And one of my favorite things to do is to laugh. So those were always high priorities, but I have a very actually structured mind in ways that I don't think people realize. Like amongst writers, the common joke is, we're writers because we're not good at math. But Michelle, I was actually really good at math. It was spelling that I had more trouble with. So I think in stories, I like to immerse myself in making them, being a part of them, just like sports. I like to play them more than watch them. I feel like stories are in motion all around us, and I really like to creatively participate in making them, if that makes sense.
It does. And so were you a bit of a storyteller when you were younger, were you? Was it something that you did while you were at high school or even college when you were growing up?
Yeah. I got picked on. I told you, I got picked on a lot, and for good reason. So my older brother is 2 years older than me. And him and his best friend used to drive me to school, and I was always running late. And one of their big things to me was that when I told stories, I would really be verbose. So they'd want me to land the plane. And I'd be in the back seat of the Jeep, which has a crossbar, fiddling, trying to get myself ready for the day. And they very strategically would slam on the brakes when my head was down so that I would bump the crossbar, which to some might sound like cruel punishment. But let me tell you, a couple bumps you start getting a little, you start landing the plane sooner, and it was good training ground. So I don't know if I definitely developed my craft, and I think I'll be developing it until I'm, 10 feet in the ground.
I love that imagery. Thank you about the whole, I can just imagine you getting into the back of the Jeep and them going, finish up, hurry up with your story, and slamming on the brakes to kind of help you finish up with the story. But also, I love this expression you keep using of landing the plane. So getting to the point might be something that we might use here, but it's a beautiful way of saying that people are listening to your story, but they want to hear kind of the point or have you get to it, which I'm sure is one of the key things when you're talking about meaningful connections with people, you kind of go into as well. But before we get there, with this wonderfully structured but very creative mind, and so you've described it as quirky, which I think is probably a good description there. What do you think then success now means to you as a person, and to you with what stage you're at with your career?
So for me, I'm going to speak very personally right now, right? Financial, like getting your financial house in order, that's success that I haven't achieved. So I would highly recommend, and I count that as a measure of success. But where I'm at right now, it's trusting the process and not trying to compete with other people, but who I was yesterday, and constantly upping that game. So I have a little ditty I use, which is, I think that if I'm jiving in love, thriving in peace, and I have health and wealth in abundance, that would be my, holy grail of success. But on a everyday measure, if I get one good quality laugh in, I feel all right. So you'll often find me, Michelle, if we're interacting and I tell you, you just gave me the best laugh of the day, that's like my highest compliment to be doling out.
I love that. Having having success as a goal each day as being one quality laugh. I think that those belly laughs, those quality laughs, really do. They're so great for your anxiety and mental health, and for really being present in your body and in your day. And I really love how you recognize that financial success is important, but it's not the only thing. It's that health and wealth and joy and well-being in your life as well. We've kind of moved into the part where we start to talk about, the tips and suggestions you have for people to create a positive mindset and a successful mindset in their life. I love this starting point around having that one quality laugh of the day, and when you're present to it, and that this is really resonating with me at this point in time. What other fabulous suggestions do you have for how people can create that ongoing conversation where they keep building that positive mindset?
Mm-hmm. So positivity, like you said, it's important. And something that I found, especially with women, is this idea of I'm enough. And what I'm enough mindset is it creates this baseline, right? So that you kind of always have a ground floor that is positive. What I mean, to kind of expound a little bit, is often you find yourself saying, who am I to? Who am I to go to that meeting or think that hot guy is going to like me? Or who am I to think I could live in that zip code, or, are deserving of this praise, stage, whatever it is. And when you start adapting I'm enough, all of a sudden you flip the script and you think like that you belong a little bit more, right? Especially when you're out there, you're putting yourself out there. If you're pushing past your comfort zone, you're taking risks, you're going to belly up. and people are going to make fun of you. And sometimes you put your stuff out there and you will get ridiculed, or worse yet, it'll be indifference and deafening silence. So especially in those times, your brain can really go down a negative spiral. Shame is a big thing. And, you know, sitting there and just saying, I'm enough and I have everything I need and I'm in exactly the right place, even if I've failed, is a really, I think, healthy place. And from that, you build into, you know, more thriving.
I love this. I'm such a queen of reframing as well. And I really love how you're reframing around this whole concept of who am I to do this? Who am I to do that? Who am I to put forward this opinion in a meeting, say, or who am I to make this suggestion to a group? And flipping it in your mind and flipping it as you think about it to, well, I am enough. And even if the outside world laughs at it, like you were saying, or is negative towards it, knowing that, you know, I am enough and your opinion matters and what you're saying and thinking and believing matters. I think that it's such a powerful, like you were pointing out, foundation to any other kind of positivity as well, of having that, whatever I'm doing, thinking and saying, I am enough. And from that foundation, you know, stretching out your comfort zones. What a wonderful suggestion.
And I have to tell you, just to add on, it changes it to why not me, right? So all of a sudden you start saying, well, why not me? Why can't I do this? So thank you. Yeah, that's the reframing that I think is massively helpful.
And the why not me, the other element that I love about the, you know, going from the why me or who am I to I am enough to the why not me, that and that journey along those different thought points. When hearing people talk about significant moments in history, if you like, one of the things they talk about, if not now, then when. And I think that many people, when they're looking at their lives and they might be reflecting on things, they regret not even trying. So I think that this is a wonderful reminder, using that who am I am enough, why not me, is a wonderful way of kind of shifting your mindset as well into the, well, if not now, when am I going to make this change in my life? When am I going to feel brave enough to do this? And the answer is, well, you may never, so just do it now and you know, just take those steps, take those challenges or those opportunities and just lean into it. And why not me? You know, why not me to do this or do that or have that opinion or appear on this TV show or whatever it might be? It's, you know, such an empowering reframe, because why not you? And shifting from who am I'm enough, to why not is a way of also opening from a contracting state to a very open and expanding state as well.
I agree. And I think now the when I'm at that I'm enough stage, I get this at the end of yoga. You get into shavasana, then they turn you over and you're kind of in that neo cradle position. And there's a yoga teacher that always says, you have everything you need and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm telling you, there's some times where you're thinking bull doo-doo. And it's such a reminder of like, yes, you're right. Like let's just believe I'm enough right here and now. Take that breath, reset, let's go.
And I love how I'm laughing because, yes, in those moments with yoga, I've definitely had the disbelief voice coming in with the belief voice. You know, I'm believing. No, I'm not. Listening to the believing, I am believing voice. I had a fabulous osteopath many years ago, and down to that breath level, which is what you reminded me of, because she used to get me to breathe in, and I'd breathe in, I have everything I need, and I'd breathe out, I release everything I don't need. And it was so powerful because it was just in that moment, if I was feeling stressed or worried, I've got to make a decision or somebody's being not so nice at work or something, I would just sit there and breathe in, I have everything I need, and I release everything I don't need. And it was just really, it's this whole, why not me? Why not me to take care of me, to reassure me, to tell me that I am enough and I am okay. And those habits and those suggestions of just doing these little things, as simple as breathing in and breathing out, can really shift your physical and your emotional state when you're perhaps a little bit upset or concerned about something.
Absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. Yep.
So with this, I am enough and this journey, what would you say? Because obviously, as human beings, we have our good points and our days and challenges and opportunities. What would you say has been the most successful for you when you're, like at yoga or somewhere, and you're trying to, or you're focusing on the why not me and I am enough, and you're kind of thinking that, but you've still got like either negativity happening around you with voice people around you telling you that you're quirky or whatever it might be, or like you were saying, picking on you and bullying you when you were younger. What do you do, and what sort of things do you do to support yourself to keep being able to focus on the, no, I see that and I recognize it and I recognize the emotions that it raises in me, but I'm not going to stay there or be that person. I'm actually going to be this person, and this is where I'm putting my energy. So what sorts of things do you do to help keep you focused on where you want to be and who you want to be?
Yeah. I want to make one clarifying point because I just have to. I don't feel like I was bullied, right, and picked on by the outside, but that tribe definitely took their shots, right? And what that did is it got me prepared for the outside world. So, I think I was maybe better equipped to handle some of that. I'll say a couple different things to this question. One, and it's my godsend, is being humbled by nature. Getting outside, if it's a forest, if it's an ocean, if it's at the base of a mountain, if it's a river, I really enjoy getting away, unplugging, humbled by nature, and just grounding myself, to take that breath and to let nature sort of just do its thing, Now, obviously, you don't always have that luxury. So another thing I do is it's interesting. This is where males in my life are really powerful, because one of the hardest things is forgiving yourself. You do something, you mess up, I call it my ugly, and you crawl up in a ball and you think, oh my God, it's all over, I can't go on, etc. And there's just different men in my life that are like, yeah, so what? So you messed up. And my mother too. My mother always says this. We always have the opportunity to begin anew. But it's just that, like, you know what? I don't see men beating themselves up nearly as much as I see women in different arenas. So I kind of have that in the back of my mind, like, go on and judge me. I'm human, and take the punches and let's keep it moving, because at the end of the day, things happen and they're going to move on. It's going to be somebody else screwing up and the attention will go to them soon enough. So I think getting the right people that are around you and support you and inspire you, obviously, not being, not messing up and having the right habits are always really good as well.
Well, I think one of the things, and thank you for that, because I was, my mind was just going, oh wow, 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 and what you reminded me of so beautifully was that as an adult, what we tend to forget is that as children, we didn't, do things perfect the first time we did them. And we're not as kind to ourselves, perhaps, in learning new things or in expanding who we are and what we do. And I think that this, ability to keep going and not kind of get caught up in the emotions about what happened in the past is definitely something that women tend to have a little bit more issues with than men. Men can tend to kind of brush things off and kind of keep going, like you were saying. But the part that I was really fascinated with was around about the people that you surround yourself with. So if you're surrounding yourself with people that are failing and are being attacked and are this and are that, because they're doing something different, because they're standing out, because they're trying, it's a very different world and a very different group of people to being around people that are always going to be doing something. And for me, one of the simplest examples I can use is about writing a book. Now, I know people still today that I've known for many, many years, 10, 20 years at least, that are going to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, when I first started on this journey of becoming an entrepreneur, I went off and did an entrepreneur course, and everybody on that course wrote a book. So it was one of those very, very profound differences to me of what would have been quite unusual in the other worlds that I'd been in to write a book now became the norm, and it was more unusual if you hadn't written a book, which was quite a reframe of something. But it was also that whole, if you wrote a book and it tanked, and if you did this and if you did that, it wasn't the end of the world because you just wrote your next book. And so many of the people that were in that group have written 2 or 3 books now, and some of them are better than others and all of that, but it's not like they wrote a book and then stopped. And so it's that habit, which is what we're talking about today. And I think remembering that, like a child, when you write your first book, it might not be, a best-selling Clive Cussler novel or whatever, but it's your best book for that point in time from you. And then your next book will be better, and your next book will be better, and so on. So I think that so what and the keep moving on is, you learnt what you needed to learn at that moment in time, and to keep going and to keep moving. And your mum, had a very, very powerful and wonderful way of expressing, the so what, keep moving on is such a wonderful philosophy and way of looking at things to keep people moving and not getting stuck perhaps in some of the emotions around things that may or may not have gone their way at points in time.
And I think that, just to build upon that, I think that this is also, I'm like the last generation before technology became all consuming. So my younger brother, who's 10 years younger than me, was on a computer when he was, 3-4 years old, playing Freddy the Fish. Why I bring this up is because in nowadays, like, everything's recorded, everything's tracked. And I do believe it creates an environment where you're less forgiving of yourself or able to make mistakes because they're forever there, and people can be really cruel. That's for sure. So, all the more reason to, surround yourself with the right people, obviously be responsible, but yeah, massive action, and good on you for writing the book. I definitely am guilty of procrastinating, but I don't apologize for it because I feel like I know what I'm doing with my book, and it's a little bit, it's about the process of who you become. So I'm owning my turtle, but the next one, I'm hoping, I hope this is going to be an accelerated process. And something you brought up is community. What you can achieve in community of like-minded people who are aggressively pursuing self-actualization is, I can't wait to taste it.
Yeah, I for me, it not just around the book, but it was very much that shift from people talking about they were always going to be doing something to being around people that were doing things all the time, and things that sometimes worked, sometimes didn't work. But it was that whole permission to fail that we're talking about, which was very strange after being in groups and around people where you weren't necessarily able to fail, or if you failed, you kind of carried around that shame and guilt for a long time. But I liked that point as well, because we did have different experiences to people that are kind of born now, or even in the world now, where everything, every micro whatever, is pretty much recorded and shared on social media and across things. And I think that you're right, that there's that it's always recorded, so there's no kind of getting away from it, going back. But there's another element to that. Like, I did a brochure for some leadership clients the other day, and I actually was talking about personal branding and origin story, and I had my photos, even just in the last 5-6 years, lined up, and I looked like a completely different person. These are all my professional, photographer, makeup, etc. photos. I look like a completely different person, and I thought, if I got stuck at any one of these photos at any of those points in time, I wouldn't then have had this wonderful kind of evolution where I had, coming out of corporate, I had a very, very corporate look, and then it's just got softer and softer. And then now, as people will see, I actually look much more natural and relaxed when you're looking at me. It's still professional, but it's less glamorized, and I was never glamorized, but glamorized is probably the best word. And it's that evolution that people might think, oh yeah, she just looks different on the outside, but actually it's the evolution of being more comfortable in my own skin over that period of time. So when I look at it, that's what I see. I see that, I've over time got more and more comfortable about who I am and sharing that with the world, and less interested in sharing the image that the world, I think, might want to see. But it takes that confidence, and it didn't happen, like I'm saying, the first time I did a professional photo shoot, it didn't happen in there. It's been 4 different photo shoots now, and also an awareness that I didn't have at the beginning that I've grown into as time went by. So I think that these are wonderful suggestions and tips for people about, using the technology as well, perhaps, for seeing your own progress and growth, because it is recorded, and there is a lot of areas that can be not as supportive on social media, but also there can be things that you can go, oh, okay, yeah, I was a bit of a meathead when I did that a few years ago. And I've learnt not to do that now, or I've learnt to surround myself with better people that are actually going to inspire me going forward. So I think, yeah, you're right. Social media and technology has shifted it, and there actually can be the negative and the positive with it as well.
And I'll just underscore real quickly, you said about meaningful connections. As far as I'm concerned, is that getting more comfortable with yourself, and it's an evolution. And I've seen it with the clients I work with. When we start telling personal stories, it does exactly that. It breaks down that business facade, and it welcomes this opportunity for other people to participate in a way that is exciting.
Oh, how wonderful. And, I feel like we could talk about origin stories and connections all day. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So, Julia, what's the best way that people can actually get hold of you?
Yes, I have 2 different channels. So I have my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Julia Taus. If you go there, please subscribe. And on LinkedIn, I'm very active and plan to be so a lot more. And it's also my name, Julia Taus.
Fabulous. So if people were to Google Julia Taus, then either through YouTube or LinkedIn are the wonderful ways. And the final question for today, Julia, what, if any, advice might you give to your younger self?
Well, there's a long list, like I'd make for Santa. But for one tip, I would say there's a song by Billy Joel, which is called Vienna. And somebody very close to me always told me that was my Billy Joel song. And it's grown on me year after year, whenever that song comes on, and it talks about, you know, slow down, you ambitious child. It also talks about this concept of being right and accepting it. Like, you don't even know that you're right. Like, you're right. Which I think also is part of that I'm enough. Like, I can be right. So, and the most important thing, Michele, of the song is that Vienna waits for you. There's time. So trust that you are enough and you're worth waiting for.
What a beautiful, beautiful sentiment to finish up. You know, you are enough and you are worth waiting for. And I love this whole theme for today. Thank you so much for sharing the I Am Enough journey and the I Am Enough story with us today, Julia. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Michele. Seriously, this is lovely. And you're just a joy to be in conversation with.
Oh, thank you so much. So that's the end of the show. And thank you again to all the amazing viewers for tuning in and for all your ongoing wonderful comments and suggestions. But for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.